So for all of you that have been following me, you've seen that I've actually been hyping up a big change for Suzie Q, and it's something that the Sleeper GTP actually needs too. But since we're actually trying to make a name for ourselves with Suzie Q at the moment, I figured it would be perfect to get this for this car because it has been long awaited for. A lot of you have been giving me a lot of crap for it. Said I should have got this thing in the first place. It needs to happen. You got to do it. So here it finally is. This is going to completely change the car. It's going to take it to the next level. I finally have the missing door trim. Perfect condition. I mean, it is straight as an arrow. What we actually got is, since the beginning, we've had problems with this car. Over and over and over again with that AR5. So to fix that problem, we're officially going to a T56 Magnum. I'll tell you, the AR5 is a good transmission. It works. It does what it needs to do for anybody that's looking for a budget 5-speed swap for an LS. But it's not going to continue to do what we need for this car to actually be competitive and work in the ways that we're talking about. We've kind of hit a ceiling of limitation with the AR5, considering that every time that we try to go out and make a solid, strong, high power pass, high power, I know, it breaks every time. And as a matter of fact, the transmission that's in it right now is broken. Same exact breakage that you saw in the last video where third gear just completely exploded, but it happened on the street. So if we're gonna be taking this thing out and trying to be competitive, and we're gonna try to give it more horsepower, we're not gonna be able to do that with this transmission. But we're definitely gonna be able to do it with this one. Thing's rated for 700 plus foot-pounds of torque, and it even has a warranty on it. So we've got a energy suspension polyurethane transmission mount, which we're currently running a just off-the-shelf at the parts store rubber mount, so that should help improve things. Also got the McLeod dual disc ceramic clutch. I mean, this thing's rated to hold 1,000 horsepower. A little bit of overkill, but it's going to allow us to have a little bit of slippage off the line, considering that we're still running on 235s in the back. And then I've got the billet 1350 slip yoke, and then of course the bell housing. So we've got pretty much everything here to put it in. We might have to do a little bit of modifications to the tunnel itself, but that's really no big deal. Even if we have to cut out a big section and widen it out, it kind of is what it is, because going to this is going to solve so many problems. Is this indestructible? Absolutely not. People break T56s, but the point is, we're well below the power rating of this transmission, and it is going to be beyond worth it. Let's get this transmission out. Let's put the AR5 side by side with this thing so we can make a little bit of a comparison, so that those of you that would consider going from an AR5 to a T56, where you're going to kind of go in that order, you can see just how much similarities there are as far as the overall dimensions. But you know, I'm excited to get it in there. We'll get it in, measure for the drive shaft, send that off, and then we're going to break it in and go out there and break some necks. You know what? Look, let me ask you something. How do you say this? Because I really don't know how you say this. These guys over here.
It's McLeod. McLeod.
You know what? Leave it in the comments how it's actually pronounced, so that way I don't say it wrong from here on out. So initially when I first started looking into this, I thought that the T56 Magnum was going to be massively different compared to the AR5, just because 6-speed, more powerful, so on and so forth. But I gotta tell you, it's actually pretty close. Even the length is almost the same. I mean, it's really only about 2 inches longer overall. And then the T56 Magnum has these 3 different shifter positions. All we gotta do is flip this, and it's already got the piece inside of there for this to interlock with. And we'll have the shifter almost lined up exactly where it was. So this just goes to show that if you're going from the AR5 and you're sick of breaking them, if you are putting power into it, you can feel comfortable with going to the T56 Magnum. We had a few spots that were hitting. There was a little ear over here. It looked like it was probably to hold a wiring harness or something. We had to trim that off the transmission, and then there was contact where our original crossmember mount was. So I'm gonna have to redo the crossmember mounting area. And then I had to dent in the floor, or the tunnel, a little bit on this side here. It's kind of janky looking, but whatever. So the amount of modification that was needed is pretty minimal. We do have a spot up towards the top by the shifter that's hitting pretty bad, which is keeping us from going up as much as we need to. And it was kind of a pain to get actually aligned and slid up onto the engine. So, you know, hopefully we don't have to take this thing out a whole bunch of times. But either way, we're going to pull this thing back down. I'm going to trim up that stuff, get it pushed up in there where it needs to be. We'll measure for the drive shaft so we can send it out and get it shortened. And then we're going to come back around on another night and do this crossmember mounting. All right, so I finally got the crossmember made. A little spacer in here for this. We might have to adjust the pinion angle, so at least we'll have that to mess with. And then I whipped up the brackets or the braces for the front and rear subframes. So all good to go there. And added a 1-inch wheel spacer to the front to help make it look a little bit more uniform to the back. So we'll see how it looks. But we're going to toss the exhaust in, bleed the clutch, and then we'll get it out of the shop, take it on its maiden voyage with the T56. Temporary. The actual shifter hasn't shipped yet. We got to put 500 miles of easy miles on this thing in order to properly break it in, and that goes for the clutch as well. Which I got to tell you, it feels no different than just a normal factory clutch. And overall, the gear spread, just going from gear to gear. The problem with the AR5 was that every time you would go from second into third, there was such a drastic change in the gear ratio that it was putting too much of a load on third gear. And I'm pretty sure that's why it was exploding third gear every time you would shift it in power in third gear. So once we get the miles on this thing and get it fully broken in, we just got to change the fluid, and then we'll actually be able to take it to the track and see what the car does with it. So I'm going to get it up to 60, 70 miles an hour on the highway, see if there's any vibrations or anything like that that need to be addressed. If so, we'll adjust the pinion angle. But past that, she's all good to go. So next thing that we're going to be doing is probably going to have something to do with the brakes, so stay tuned for that. But I hope everybody out there is just as excited as we are about this change to the car, because it really is going to take us to the next level. And I just can't wait to be able to get this thing dialed in on that T56. So catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.